And I would like to bring up Diane Essner now. She put together tonight's event because hospitality is near and dear to your heart. She's an expert in hospitality. So tell us about your hospitality journey, Diane.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight. I've been in the hospitality industry in one way or another for over 20 years, probably 25 years. It's an amazing industry. I mean, who doesn't love to travel? I mean, it's a very dynamic, very people-oriented, and what we have is an esteemed panel of people that really represent a variety of different positions in the industry. It is male-dominated, especially on the technology side, but what you're going to hear is a lot of personal experiences, things that relate to the industry that we all love and why we enjoy being there and stay there. And I hope that you'll have an opportunity to ask some questions and engage freely. And I'm going to give this over to Amanda Chivers, who's our moderator.
Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight and being here to hear about women in the hospitality field. I will introduce myself and then allow each of our wonderful panelists here to introduce themselves as well. I am the managing principal for Crown Hospitality Consulting. It's a hotel asset management firm based here in Atlanta. And I tell people that I get a chance to play Monopoly every day for a living. That's what I do. I work with hotel owners, operators, and lenders in helping them to develop hotels, renovate hotels, and operate hotels more profitably. And I pretty much give them the benefit to leverage my expertise in hospitality to maximize the revenues for their hospitality investments. And we tend to focus on really the upscale and luxury segmentation within the hospitality space because we really provide the best value to our clients in that space within hospitality. So that's me. Next to me is Di. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello. Oh, is this on?
I think so.
I don't need one anyway. But anyway, so hi, I'm Di Davillas. I'm with Oracle Hospitality, the artist formerly known as Microsystems. I've been with Oracle/Micros for 25 years. Yes, I started when I was 2. And yeah, so I've been in the company in various positions. Today, my current position is Area Vice President of Global Accounts. So I manage one of the largest global accounts in the world, I guess you can call it, in hotels. And I'm really excited to be here and lovely to see lots of faces, male and female. So thank you for coming. And my esteemed colleague, Pam.
Hi, everybody. My name is Pam Angelucci, and I am a consultant to the hospitality industry on the technology side. I was the former CIO for Ritz-Carlton Worldwide, and I did that as the company was privately held here in Atlanta. And when Marriott bought the company, I left and started doing consulting. So I have a very big network, because when that merger happened, we had a lot of people exit Ritz-Carlton, like myself. And so I've been blessed to have many people call me and ask me for my expertise in helping them either start new hotels or come in and help with their existing IT, all the changes in technology, and help them manage that process and get through it smoothly. And I love every day. I've worked in many different vertical markets. This has actually been the last one that I've worked in and the one that I prefer. And I look forward to speaking with you all tonight. Thank you.
Last but not least, hi everybody, my name's Emma Hind. I work for IHG, which I would like you all to think of as Atlanta's hometown hotel company. We're headquartered in the UK, but this is the location for our Americas headquarters. And I've been with IHG for 18 years, 7 of which here in Atlanta, and before that back in London. My role these days is focusing on the enablement of revenue strategy across our global revenue management team. That includes thinking about the capabilities that we're going to need 5, 10, 20 years from now to be successful as a hotel company, considering what will work in all of our various different brands, from a Holiday Inn to an Intercontinental and a Hotel Indigo and everything in between. So we're focusing a lot on making sure that we're moving into all of the places our guests want us to be. It's wonderful to work for a big brand and have the opportunity to take my own experience working in a hotel in the operations world through some revenue management roles, a wonderful 5-year experience in the technology team for IHG as well, and now I'm back onto the business strategy side. So I'm thrilled to be here and to talk to all of you today.
Well, excellent. I am just going to open up and say we want this to be very interactive and fluid, and so absolutely, ladies, feel free to jump in there as we go through our topics. I believe that the subtitle for today's discussion is Women in Hospitality, Breaking Barriers. And so, as Diane mentioned, we're going to talk a little bit about these women and what inspired them to become a part of the hospitality industry, and give a little bit of background about their careers and experiences within this industry. And hopefully we can shed some light on, what the future of the hospitality industry looks like going forward as well. So we'll jump right in, and why don't we start with Di? How about you share with us your initial impressions of the hospitality industry and what attracted you to the industry as far as making this a career choice?
Thank you. So I'm what you consider a legacy. So I was raised in the food and beverage industry with my parents running restaurants and whatnot, but I was very, very strictly told not to be part of the industry growing up. So, I chose a different path, but somehow I fell back into hospitality naturally. The opening that was given to me was to open a hotel and to train people in customer service. And then that really was just a part-time or short-term contract. And then, halfway through, I thought to myself, why would I go back to what I was doing before? There's a lot of diversity in what I'm doing. I get to talk to so many people, and, find myself teaching and learning at the same time, which is really difficult to do in a lot of other verticals out there. So that really excited me, and I was able to connect with so many people, male, female, different ages. It was the just sort of post-Gen X time, so people really invigorated to work really hard and spend a lot of time with each other. So, the people that I started working with 25 years ago, I still consider very close friends, gone to weddings, christenings, baptisms, graduations, the kids' weddings. So, it really becomes a vocation sort of organically. And so that has held me to continue working in the hospitality industry. Certainly now much more in the technology side of it. And what keeps me going, and Emma and I were chatting about this over a glass of wine earlier, and what keeps me going is that it's never the same every day. I can look back this date last year, this date 25 years ago, and say to myself, I was talking to different people about different things for different reasons, and I've changed and they've changed, and the landscape has changed. So, for me, that's really exciting. It's exhausting, but it's exciting. That to me shows that when you hear how long we've all been involved in hospitality, how long Diane's been involved, Amanda, it means that as a female in particular, you can really grow in anywhere you want to. And you can stick to one path, whether it be customer service, whether it be IT, or you can change course halfway through and really have an opportunity to really blossom in that role. And it's been really exciting. And, when I talk about it, I get like goosebumps thinking about it, because it is still exciting 25 years later, because it is ever changing. And, hospitality itself, I think, is finally starting to catch up with IT technology, right? So, thank God. Mama needs a new pair of shoes, right? So I needed to keep going. So for me, it's exciting that, now they're thinking about not just IT making decisions, but business and IT together making decisions, which means it's meaningful and it's long term and it's valuable, right? It's valuable to the guests, it's valuable to the operations, and valuable to everybody involved. So, yeah, that's why I've stuck with it. And I don't know anything else, really, so that's beside the point.
I can certainly relate with it being dynamic. I tell people all the time, the hospitality industry, to me, is just, it's very fast-paced. You meet people from around the world. You get to travel. You get to experience so many different backgrounds, and it's just never, like you said, the same day twice, which is amazing.
Wouldn't you both agree, though, that in hospitality, you either love it or you hate it?
You love it?
There is no
or you love it.
between.
You love it or
That's
you
what
love
it is.
Yeah, sorry.
So I'd like to hear you.
Oh,
So
I can yell. I really need that.
now that Pam has a mic, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and what you feel, as from a training perspective, gave you the ability to succeed and excel within the hospitality space?
Sure, and I think that's it's a good question for me, specifically because I've had really a lot of different experiences, not just in hospitality. I went through school, I got a degree in engineering and IT, and I thought, oh, I'm going to be a programmer. And then I joined ROTC when I was in college. I spent 10 years in the military and reserves as a lieutenant and then a captain. I had 4 boys along the way and worked for a legal firm as a CIO. So I've actually worked in a lot of different male-dominated environments all along my career. So when I got the opportunity to actually work at Ritz-Carlton, and I came in as the CIO, it was the first woman ever to be in their environment, on their panel, on their executive committee ever. They'd never had a woman before. So, yeah, it was fun. Thanks. And I think it was more difficult for them than it was for me. So I kind of sat there and said, yeah, I've heard it all before, I've seen it all before, and this is really nothing new for me. And they had a real hard time adjusting. But we all got along. We made some adjustments along the way. There were some boys' trips that I chose not to go on, and we learned how to manage.
I would have gone just because of that.
It really is something, like we were all talking about, though, that you get to experience new things along the way, every single day. And for me and my personality, I like to problem solve. And there's always been a plethora of issues and problems that you got to solve along the way. So I brought in great people, we worked as a team, we worked really, really hard. And some of the differences that I see now in kids coming out of college, they don't really want to work that hard. Some of them don't. And you've got some issues that you have to work through with that. I was fortunate enough when I did that. I don't do it now because I work on my own, but when I was hiring people, everybody wanted to work really hard. So we had a great team and really enjoyed it. So.
And you learn to love bad coffee at like 3 o'clock in the
yeah.
morning. You learn to love it.
Absolutely. So.
I actually think that's a great segue as you talk about the new generation that's out there and coming into the hospitality space today, because I think what I hear a lot, and you can tell me if you hear this, that when people think hospitality, they think about servitude as opposed to service. Mm-hmm. And so maybe, Emma, you can talk to us a little bit about the difference between service and the hospitality industry and maybe people's perceptions of the hospitality industry. And we should probably expound a little bit about the various opportunities that exist within the hospitality industry under the umbrella of hospitality. So I'll let you take that, Emma.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think I will just follow up on something that Pam said about the newer generation entering the workforce today. I definitely understand the experience of seeing people that aren't necessarily prepared to work as hard. So when it's an industry like hospitality where you've got to work hard, especially in the early days of your career, it's even more difficult. At IHG, we've been really fortunate to have some fabulous interns from Georgia State, from the hospitality and master's program, and I think have the exact opposite experience of that. So it's nice to see that there are people entering our industry who do understand, hopefully, the pride in the service angle that we all have and we all share as well. So it definitely gives me heart. But I think it's maybe this is a different global perspective as well. Diane's done a good job of getting a globally diverse panel, as you can hear by some of the accents here. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
no idea. But what I would say, coming from the European hotel industry, there are some countries and some geographies where hospitality and the privilege to serve is a career choice. It differs from perhaps some people in the industry who, especially in North America, I think, where hospitality is something you default to if you couldn't figure out your major, or you may or may not want to be an engineer, but you couldn't quite decide. So, I mean, who's worked on a front desk or in a bar or in a restaurant? And I think that is a very typical entry point for a lot of people to this industry. I'm no different. I was a banqueting waitress and a housekeeper and all of those things, and I am that person that couldn't figure out my major, so that's why I'm in hospitality. But I think what I've learned and what I'm encouraged by seeing in the newer generations entering the workforce is that servitude is, to me, it's more about a sense of being enslaved to deliver service to somebody, and service is the opposite. Service is the choice and the decision and the privilege to serve others. And I think the place that hospitality has, it's much, to me, it's more than I like to travel, so I want to be in the hospitality industry. It's allowing, in the case of a brand like IHG, it's allowing our hotel to be the center of a community, or the place where people come to marry, to celebrate, to grieve, to meet people. It's a place for every emotion, and it's a place that can provide shelter to people when they don't have it. And that, I think, that motivation is a lot of the reason that people stay. And the minute you figure out that service is an honor and not servitude, I think you've cracked it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, great perspective. I agree. I think, to your point, if you live and work outside of the United States, there's definitely a different perspective about service and hospitality, and the point that you make about how you're really a part of the community. Mm-hmm. I have had people come up to me after we've renovated a hotel that maybe had fell behind as far as the capital improvements and the condition of the hotel, and they'll come up to me once it's been totally refurbished and reinvigorated, and they'll say, my parents got married at this hotel, and now I'm actually going to get married at this hotel. And it's literally, a part of their story, so you can truly have an impact on people's lives when they're going through divorces and deaths in the family. Again, it kind of becomes an extended family also, as you said, Di.
Oh yeah, it's not a job. No. Right? It's not a job. I wouldn't call it a job. I wouldn't call it a career. I'd call it a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. I have trained my friends to know when they stay somewhere, what PMS system are they using? They're all trained. What point of sale? And I mean, I'm sure, or where'd you stay? Where did you stay? And that just happens, right? Because you just love what you do, and it doesn't stop at 5 o'clock in the afternoon at all, right? So it really becomes, and I can't even call it a vocation. It's really a lifestyle. So that's where I think I would love to see the next wave of women in hospitality to have that real sense of passion about this kind of lifestyle, because it's exciting. It really is.
I could not agree more. So we love it. Absolutely. We've been in the industry for the years across this table, 18 years I think you have us beat probably in. But let's talk about some of the challenges. We've already alluded to the fact that clearly we are operating in a male-dominated industry, and we are all women sitting here at this table who have excelled. Thank you. Not only have we excelled within the industry, but many of us have branched out and created companies of our own based on the experiences that we've had, and obviously the mentors and people who have trained us and helped us to climb the ladder within the industry. So let's talk about the challenges that we've faced along the way, how we've overcome obstacles, and what we've learned from it. You want to take that on, Pam?
Sorry, Lieutenant. Sorry.
Ma'am, a few of them.
Captain, sorry.
So no, and you might joke about that, but that helped so much going through the military and learning that discipline and learning what it meant to work really hard, learning to listen before I said anything. I grew up almost as a single child, and I really felt like I knew everything and everything was fine, and then I joined the Army, and it's like a very big learning opportunity for me. I became a different person going through that. That helped me to overcome so many challenges along the way. and being able to get along with everybody, not just other women, but the men that I would meet, I would work for, the men that work for me, and my peers as well. One of the conversations, I think it was one of us, we were having before, they were talking about how men seem to manage up and women manage down. And that's that nurturing feeling that you just bring out. But in hospitality, you really have to do both. You have to be able to manage up, you have to manage your peers, you have to manage the people below you too, and just make sure that you're keeping a handle on all of those at the same time. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But I think the challenge as a woman, especially starting, is not to get lost in the shuffle, right? You don't want to get lost in the shuffle. You don't want to be a shadow of somebody else or a version of yourself, right? So I think it's the idea, and I love the idea with the millennials in particular who are about owning themselves and owning their personality. And you've got to do that in the corporate world. You've got to do that in business, and you've got to set yourself apart, but in a real positive way. Because, you know, I don't know if anybody watches Westworld. I do. But you know, there was one episode when one of the characters was talking. She was a female. She was talking about you can't be too aggressive where you're alienating others. So you've got to be assertive enough where you're making yourself known. You've got a clear decision, but you're including those around you, whether they're men or women. So I think it's walking that fine line, and I hope one day that the young people that are coming after us don't have to walk the fine line, that they can just be themselves and get rewarded based on merit. But today, that's not all there. I think it's certainly getting better, but I think the challenge is to really own yourself, own your education, and that is self-education, and then make sure that you're not in anybody's shadow. You're not a wallflower. It doesn't mean you have to be the crazy one running down the hall doing something, but it's about your work, and nobody can take that away from you. Not a single person can.
Yeah,
So
I would add to that. You always have to, you have to watch yourself too. I have been in so many situations with other women where we're not in a work environment. It's after work, and they're a totally different person, but they're still with the same people. And I have tried to counsel other younger women and let them know you can't do that. Because everybody is always watching you.
That's hard.
And it is hard. It's hard in hospitality too, because there's so many things after hours.
Well, it is, right? I mean, you can have meetings all day, and then you go out for a drink, and you go out for dinner with your customer, and they want your authentic self. They want it, right? So give it to them, and I mean, not to say be their best friends immediately, but it is really about relationships, right? It's the same in the ops, right?
It is, and I think there's when we talk about leadership and what makes a great leader, regardless of male or female, I think it's universally acknowledged that a sense of being able to show some vulnerability does contribute to greatness, which means it requires a certain level of authenticity to start with, I think. I think the other angle of what you were just saying was interesting too, with reaching down and helping the next generation along. I think there was a time, certainly during my career, maybe 10, 15 years ago, when it wasn't cool for women to help other women in the way that it is today. And I think I am, again, encouraged daily to by all the connections that I see older female leaders making down. There was a great quote that I've stolen so many times I probably don't even say it right anymore, but that if you get success, it's your responsibility to send the elevator back down again.
Yep.
And I think that's what I see with these last couple of generations of female leaders, is that willingness to do just that.
Yep. Agreed.
I'm absolutely inspired by what I see as far as a transformational change in the industry, because we're seeing more and more women in the ranks of leadership within the hospitality space. And not just hospitality, to be honest, we're seeing it across the board in other industries as well. So to your point, I think when you were the trailblazer and you were one of the only few women, I think you kind of had to toe the line, so to speak. But now that there are more of us in the ranks, we can kind of support one another and help bring other women along as well. So I'm totally inspired by that. So let's see. Let's talk about, we're in the travel industry, hospitality. Again, we go to some fabulous places, stay at phenomenal hotels. Tell us a little bit about some of the wow experiences and wow moments that you've had over, throughout the course of your travels, and also throughout the course of your career as well. Why don't we start with you, Emma?
Does wow mean good or wow mean bad?
Either. We can make it either. Yeah.
Stories. I've had some great opportunities to work in different parts of the world, and growing up in the UK and being very familiar with the European continent, I was brought up as a traveler, as a gypsy. My parents would take us to different countries for vacation, and it wasn't until I started traveling for work that I really understood quite what it takes to host travelers from another country and make them feel welcome. I remember when I started working in the Middle East, it was overwhelming to land in a country during the month of Ramadan, when it wasn't appropriate to be seen eating in public while the majority of the locals would fast. And the generosity with which I saw the hotel staff helping me understand and learn about a culture that I didn't know, and would invite me to their family home for iftar to break the fast together and help me understand more about their culture. So I think my wow experience has always been the generosity of the people who are attracted to this industry, and the desire to make people just feel at home wherever they are in the world.
It's the same thing that I love about what I've gotten to do over the last few years, because I've been to so many different countries and been able to see their cultures when they come in and understand a whole lot more. When you said Ramadan, I remember going and being in Egypt during Ramadan, not knowing what it was or understanding anything, running around the hotel when evening was setting and everybody was in prayer, and I couldn't find anybody, and I had no idea what was going on. I ran into the engineer's office because I needed to grab an engineer to do something, and the poor director of engineering was on the floor praying. And I opened the door and I hit him right in the middle of the head because he was on the floor, and I just backed out real slowly and closed the door. But I have so many stories like that go through my mind, all the different cultures that I have been around. We were in Jamaica years and years and years ago, and they had the housekeeping crew come in, and more than half of the ladies that were going to be housekeepers had never seen a vacuum cleaner. They had no idea how to use it. They didn't know what it was for because all they had ever used was a broom. And it's just all those different fascinating pieces that you get around the world as you're traveling. I didn't get to see too many places outside of the hotel because it was usually airport, hotel, airport, and then they'll leave again. But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That must have really sucked to be in the Ritz-Carlton all that time.
It was really bad, I know.
Well, I think it's also the lessons learned, right? So for me, it's two things. It's lessons learned and lessons from my peers, from people that work for me, that people work with me, my customers, the leaders I've been able to sit with and break bread and have a glass of wine over, whether it be a CEO, of a major corporation, of my own, whether it be Micros or Oracle, just the lessons that you learn by osmosis, just being able to sit around in earshot and hear some of the stories. But then also, I had a wow factor here, right here. Emma. First time I've met Emma, we have all these people in common. Like it blows my mind every day that you can meet somebody for the first time in this industry and they are immediately part of your tribe. Immediately. Yep. And no, I don't know any other industry that does that. No. Like I really don't. So that gives you familiarity immediately. It's like, I'm going to call you up, we're going to go out, we're going to have a drink, I'm going to come and visit you, or whatever it may be. Even with...
And we've known each other for years. I can pick up the phone and call her and go, help me with this.
What the
I didn't exactly say it like that.
But and that's where I think the wow keeps happening, right? And it happens in different ways, but the idea that, you have a personal life, but then you have this professional life, which is big.
It's another family, yeah.
It really is another family, and being able to connect with them immediately because you speak the same language. Like if I don't talk to my friends really about what I do because they wouldn't understand the language, but when you've got these people in your community that just, you can, if I said PMS to my friends, they'd be like, are you okay? Right. But, I easily talk to Emma about that without a problem.
Pam and I could do the same thing with all the acronyms from the military. So yeah, we do the same thing in the military.
Right. Roger that.
Well, I do have one wow factor I have to share with you too. So obviously working in the hotel industry, we tend to judge a lot too. You can't go into a hotel as if you're just a guest when you work in the industry. So you're always paying attention. I'm looking at the wall covering. I'm looking at the functionality. So I took my mother with me to Thailand recently for a conference. And that was, the entire trip was a wow factor. From the moment that we walked into the door, you talked about the service level. There was literally someone standing at the elevator bank just to push the buttons for us. You'd never pushed a button the entire time that you were there. You certainly never touched your luggage. And we actually signed up to go to the spa. We had a treatment in the spa. If you've never had a Thai spa, oh my God, you just have not experienced life yet. It is unbelievable. And the food and the cuisine, a very international location, obviously, with so many business travelers coming in and out. But let me tell you how impressed I was. We went to breakfast the first morning, and I think I had a cappuccino, and my mother drinks her coffee black, no sugar, no cream. The very next day, and you know, we're at the Intercontinental Hotel in Bangkok, right? There's a bunch of folks. You can pay me later. And you know, there are a bunch of folks having breakfast in the morning. So we, you know, go through our day and we come back and we have breakfast the next morning. And he says to me, "Would you like a cappuccino? Would you like a black coffee?" I mean, and they remembered what we had had for breakfast the day prior out of like everybody that was in there. I was like, really? How does this happen?
Technology.
It's technology. Hang on now, it's technology.
I was blown away.
Real,
I
real.
was like, oh my God. So yes, I have had some travel experiences just being in this industry. And honestly, the saddest part is when I'm traveling by myself because I don't have anybody to share with, you know. So I try to bring my husband or my mom or anybody who wants to go, you know. You know, that's the fun part. That's the fun part of this job. You know, you got to do it, and like anything else, like a good meal, you got to do it with somebody that you love, right?
Well, and I think what Emma was saying earlier about working hard, that's the ROI of all of this, right? So you work really, really hard and you get such great experiences along the way. So, and it's not just a great hotel, but it's the people, it's the cultural experiences. So, you know, again, I think about other verticals and I'm trying to figure out how would they have the same experiences as we have, and it'd be really tough.
It would be hard.
It'd be really, really tough.
Yeah. Well, something you just said was interesting, actually, Amanda. Thinking about the relationship between hospitality and technology that, you know, a lot of us here represent. The things you remember from your travels. Not one person has said, "I remember the awesome TV in the room," or "I think they had the most beautiful Cat 5 cabling I've ever seen."
Right.
And that is something that's super important to think about if you are a technology provider to hospitality companies or to, you know, hotels and owners. You don't remember that. You remember, "Would you like a cappuccino, ma'am?" And whether or not that's somebody doing their job diligently and keeping a note of that on your profile and using technology to help prompt the next day, or whether that's, you know, something else. It's the behind the scenes stuff that I think technology companies can do really well. Right. The less you see technology in some ways, the better job you've done.
Yeah, it's a silent partner.
Exactly.
It's a silent partner in customer service.
Yeah.
And in experience, right? So, and it's not just, you know, your iPhone and guest-facing stuff, but it's everything else. It's that behind the curtain, the Wizard of Oz stuff, right? What happens behind the scenes that gives you all of that.
Right.
Which Oracle Hospitality can provide.
Well, I have
I'm shameless, totally.
I have another question, but I'd like to give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions if there's anything in particular that's burning on your mind.
So, for the panelists, did you have a mentor?
Have you had a mentor? And is there something in particular, a pivotal moment, something that you learned from your mentor that's really impacted your career? And
did you seek out the mentor, or did they find you?
And did you seek out that mentor, or did they find you? Who wants to take that on?
I can take that quickly. I would consider in this industry, my mentor, who I still revere highly, was the ex-CIO of Microsystems Inc., Tom Giannopoulos. And we had a cultural connection because we were both Greek heritage,
don't let the accent fool you. I am Australian as well. The big, and it was just a natural, talking in the hallways and then talking a lot, and we had a lot of sports in common, and so it ended up being a great sort of overall motivator. And one of the best lessons he gave me was he had this big bowl of glass bowl with these little plastic monkeys in them. So every time I'd go in his office and they'd be like, oh, I've got this problem and this problem, he'd take one monkey out and put on the table, one monkey out, and at the end of it he'd say, okay, these are all the monkeys on your back, right? And I'm like, so the idea of, and what he taught me is that there are always going to be problems, and you've got to be able to separate what's your problem or what you can fix, and then how you can do it. And always think about what is the right thing to do. Like, what is the right thing to do in the situation? Now, regardless of revenue, regardless of margin, regardless of this, regardless of that, what's the right thing to do? And I've taken that exact example and I have shared it with my entire teams throughout the years, always, even my husband, entire teams throughout the years, to say, really got to focus on what you can do, and what you do should be the right thing at all times. So yeah.
I've been lucky to have had a couple of mentors, I think, throughout my career. Maybe it started off initially, they sought me out because they were trying to fix me, and I thank them for that, but they became mentors as well. I think I will, just to be frank though, I struggled for a long time to find the right one. I didn't know exactly what I needed from a mentor, and I didn't want someone who was doing it for the wrong reasons. I didn't want someone who was trying to develop my skill set. I needed someone who was going to help me just get out of my head and think things through and try different things and help me be successful that way. So not so much one key mentor as much as multiple people, some of whom probably didn't know the influence that they had on me, and I should probably go back and write them letters now. But yeah, it's a difficult concept, especially in an industry where everything's very fast-paced and not everyone has time to do their own job, let alone do any favors for somebody else, which I think is why it's so important now that we can say, hey, you are awesome at this, would you mentor me in that area? But be very specific about the scope of what it is that you need. The worst mentoring partnerships I've observed are those where the mentee cannot articulate what they need help with, and the mentor is usually just kind of telling them stories and hoping something sticks. So I would advise, if I could do it again, I would be far more scoped about what I was exactly asking for, and then narrow a shortlist down and then approach people. And also expect them to say yes, because people do find it an honor to be asked to mentor as well. So don't ever be afraid to put your neck out and say, hey, I want whatever's in your brain.
I want to acknowledge one of my mentors. Bob Massey has been a tremendous mentor to me. He brought me on, he hired me into one of the positions as an asset manager, and I don't think it was even 3 or 4 months later that he had to go out on a hip replacement surgery. And so I found myself in this new role, and he says, don't worry, kid, you got it. And I'm just a phone call away. And I think that was the best mentor relationship that I've had in my entire career, because he was a veteran. He'd been in the industry, 30 plus years. But he just believed in me, and he said, you know what, you can do it. No matter what I was calling him about, he said, you can do it. And he would give me advice when I needed it, and he would tell me who I needed to go to or talk to, but he would also give me the freedom to figure it out and kind of work through the challenge, like you said, Pam, and really be a problem solver. And he would always want to know what I was going to do next. So he always wanted me to be thinking forward about how whatever it is that I was going to impact the next step. You guys may have heard that phrase, this is not checkers, this is chess. Always be thinking about what's coming next. So he was just one of the best mentors, and again, just because he had so much faith and confidence, and no matter what the situation was, that I would figure it out.
And pay it forward, right?
And pay it forward. And actually, I continue to do that as well. I'm sure we all do. And maybe we can talk about the women that we mentor, or other people that we have mentored, and how we take that approach to mentorship today.
Pam?
I actually don't have any women that I have mentored. Because hospitality and hospitality is so male dominated. Most of the people that I work with right now are all male, and I don't have any women in IT that I work with at all. I just kind of an anecdote. I've never had any issues working with men in hospitality at all. I have run into some women, not vendors, not peers, that have been more difficult to work with than the men have been.
Agreed.
And it's an interesting concept. I don't know why that occurs as much. And a lot of it, I think, comes from a woman's opinion that this is a man's job and that a woman couldn't be as successful as a man. So just be aware of that. I've run into it, and I don't know if anybody else has.
Yeah,
but-
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But to your question, I try and mentor both, and I think Emma had the right idea of being a little bit more focused on specific items. I think for me, the biggest part of my mentorship to women, whether they're peers or whether they work with me or for me, is confidence. Right? I certainly don't lack it, but I try and help others tap into theirs, because I think everybody has it. It's just a matter of knowing when and how to use it, knowing where you're already confident but you didn't realize it, and sort of helping them open up their own doors versus opening it up for them, right? So that's sort of really what I tend to focus on. I do the same for a lot of men too. So yeah, but I concur with a lot of what Pam said about sort of the butting up against, you know, some female peers in my lifetime, and sort of trying to overcome their own issues that, yeah, it's their personal, it's their issues. I mean, I don't own it, but you know, you try and sort of maneuver around it and get on with it. Yeah.
Well, right along with that, how about we take a moment and talk about, if you know someone who might have an interest in hospitality or considering hospitality as a career choice, what advice would you give to that person today, with all the experience and wealth of knowledge that you have today? What advice would you give to someone coming into the industry today? How about you?
Me? No, Emma.
Emma?
You're me?
All right.
Okay. It depends, I would say, on where you're coming from and why. If you are trying to keep it in context of technology, if you are coming into hospitality, first of all, do it. There is no bad decision there. But secondly, I would say be patient. There's an old joke about the oldest profession in the world, but the second most famous and oldest profession has to be, you know, no room at the inn. It's got to be hospitality, and it's something that's been around in different carnations for hundreds and thousands of years. Some of our technology is as old as that too, and no matter the size of the brand, no matter you know, the size of the company, the technology is often the thing that's the hardest to get right. And I've just spent a wonderful 6-year part of my career working on a program to replace a 50-plus-year-old reservation system, and doing it before my competitors. And that's something that if you're coming into the industry, you're going to see so much that it just doesn't make sense. If you are the up-and-coming generation, especially, you are used to technology. You grew up with it in a way that we didn't. But what we're going to put in front of you is something that you're not going to find at all easy to use. Not in any way something that you're going to get excited to come to work and use. And we find that part of the trouble with keeping and attracting and retaining great talent is you find these awesome front desk agents and you bring them in, and then you put them in front of this green and black system and tell them that to do this one thing they have to do this other 17 things with spreadsheets, and doesn't matter how great their smile is or how awesome a welcome they can give, they're not going to stick around if that's the technology. So I would say be patient if you are coming from the world of modern technology. We are getting there, and we are learning every day, and we are so far ahead of where we were, especially at IHG. I think they've made some incredible advancements in really brave moves with partners and vendors that are doing the technology best, we bring the hospitality, we bring that intellectual property, and we've partnered with some of the greatest companies to get ahead. We don't have to build it ourselves, but that's not our skill set. I would say if you're coming into hospitality from a different route, not for technology, the answer is still do it. Be patient. There's a lot of, I don't know that I would agree necessarily these days that it's still a male-dominated industry, because you do see, I know, again, companies, I can only speak for IHG because they're the only people I've known for 18 years, but we were one of the first FTSE companies to have a 50-50 male-female board split, for instance. So, you know, we have, and like a lot of other companies do, but a huge focus on diversity and inclusion, and a big piece of that is pushing women to take that next step, to figure out why female leaders get to a point and then stop or leave, and fixing that. So I would say for women in leadership in general, hospitality is just a great place to be right now.
I would add education onto that, as much as you can. Expose yourself to understand about technology, not just technology, but all aspects of hospitality. As much as you can educate yourself on, the better off you're going to be. You know, starting from what does it take to build a hotel, and what's the process that you go through? What does an asset manager do? You know, what the heck is that person that shows up once a month and yells at everybody? It makes a difference, though. The more you know, the more effective you can be.
Right, that's true.
Right, and I would agree with Emma. Jump in, just jump in. The water's warm. Jump in. There's people there to hold you up. There's people there to make sure that your floaties are on right, and make sure that everything is going to be okay. But what the key is that it's one of the few places where you can really decide as you go along which exit you want to get off the freeway, right? So if you're getting involved in operations, you're like, hey, I'm tired of this, I'm going to now do this. So you can get off it. There's going to be people there to support you, and move in that direction, right? So the amount of people that all of us know that have just gone every which way is phenomenal, right? Male or female. So if you're willing to work hard, the ROI is there. You just have to wait, right? But you'll get it, and it's fun. And you can really have a long tenure with the industry, and really feel that you've accomplished something. So yeah, absolutely, jump in. I'll be here.
Every person that worked with me at Ritz-Carlton, they are all now VPs, they're CIOs, they have their own companies.
Yep.
They are super successful, and they worked hard, and they earned it.
I really want to underscore that point. So when you come into the industry, yes, you might start off at the front desk. Again, I started off as a hostess, I think, at one of the F&B outlets. But you can climb the ranks, and you can become the CIO. I even believe that Bill Marriott started off as an attorney and obviously became the CEO of the largest hospitality industry with $8 billion in revenue under his management. So don't think about where you start, because that's not what's important. It's about where you finish, right? And also think about, I think Pam, you mentioned, there's so many different opportunities under the hospitality umbrella. If you love to cook, you can be a chef. If you love to build hotels, you can be an architect. If you love interior design, you can be an interior designer. Right. If you love numbers and accounting, we needed numbers and accounting people. So there's so many pathways, as somebody mentioned, within the hospitality space. It really does encompass so many different roles. So just think about hospitality, and don't think about it in just the traditional sense. So again, I'm going to open it up to the audience for a Q&A session. I do have another question if there aren't any questions, but let me ask if there's anything that's burning inside. Anyone? Great question. All right. What's your favorite vacation place?
I would say British Columbia, Canada.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of different climates you can experience depending on the time of year you go, and also my mum and dad live there, so I don't even have to stay in a hotel. But, I love Vancouver.
So just kind of following along what Emma just said, I don't like to stay in hotels. and that's because when you work in a hotel and you really know what happens in a hotel, we just really prefer not to stay there.
She means how hard people have to work.
Yeah,
to keep
that's
you
what
happy.
it is.
That's what she means.
That one.
It's not bad stuff.
It's true though. It's true. It really is.
It is very true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though I'm in technology, I go to somewhere where there's no technology and just disconnect, whether it be up a mountain or on a beach.
Yeah.
Typically it's up a mountain somewhere. And just get back to nature, which is a great balance, right? Especially when you're working in front of a computer all day and talking all day as I do. It's nice just to disconnect completely and vacate your life. That's what I do.
I would agree. For the holidays, we tend to get a cabin, and even if they have Wi-Fi, nobody uses it. We don't even access it. We just want to be, to your point, away from it and not thinking about it, just to give yourself a break, honestly. But if I had to pick a place internationally, I would say Italy, for sure, along the coast. There's nothing better. I think when I'm in the water there, I just feel like I could just die right there, honestly.
Absolutely.
So my favorite has been Barcelona.
Barcelona. Okay.
I will say in the hospitality industry, especially if you work for a brand, you get employee rate discounts.
Yes.
And that has a huge impact on
Again, ROI, people.
yes.
ROI.
on where you choose to stay. If it's going to be $30, you'll go anywhere.
Any other questions? What do you think is going to happen in technology and the hospitality industry over the next 5 to 10 years?
I'll take that pen.
What I want to happen, or do I predict is going to happen?
If you could dream.
Yeah, if you could dream. Wow. So the biggest issue right now is that most of the technology does not speak or play well together. There are really phenomenal pieces of technology out there that do one thing in a silo. And then you have to use another one in another silo, and then you use 14 spreadsheets in between. So if I could fix all of that in the next 10 years, it would be that you can implement things and you can put them in pieces and they all work seamlessly together. Because right now it's way too hard to make that work.
Yeah, I agree. Flatten it. It's going to be flattened. It's going to be decoupled. I know that's what we're working on with Oracle Hospitality, is flattening it, plug it and play, make it easy, make it light, right? So you can plug in wherever you are. If you're on a plane as a global group director of revenue management, you're on a plane, you've got to do something, you can connect via Wi-Fi, get into your system, get it done, right? So I think that's where it's going to go. And I think it's going to help with education, where people can step in front of that computer and be able to quickly understand what they're doing, because it's going to be like the rest of their life, right? Versus learning a whole new skill set to figure out what buttons to press and what screens to go to and what options to go to. So I think it's going to become flat and it's going to become easy and light. Yeah.
What about the cost of this new technology? Do we think that the cost is going to become a little more affordable, where you can actually roll it out, on a platform readily?
I do. I think that's just in general across the entire IT world, technology world. It's becoming cheaper to develop things. It's becoming easier, and it's faster.
And it's not just that. It's being able to go out and almost rent it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to pay for it.
Right.
It's like buying a great big PBX.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do that anymore. Now you can kind of rent space off of another one and use that in the hotel instead of having to buy your own. So you see a lot of things moving, especially when people talk about off property. Everything is moving off property.
Right.
So you don't have to house everything there. You don't have to buy all the equipment and maintain it and everything.
Right.
I think listening to guests is the critical thing, and with wearables and mobile and Wi-Fi everywhere, they're not coming to our hotels for our HBO anymore, and we don't have to try and attract people with the technology. The technology can support the amazing experience that they're going to have, but as you said, Amanda, you're not remembering that anything but that amazing cappuccino that you had that day. People bringing their own content, so I think companies that are still spending a lot of time thinking about in-room technologies, all people want, as you say, it's not just plug and play from a back of house perspective, but let me bring my content and view it on a big screen, but that's all that's going to impress me. And I might check in online a couple of times, or I might do kiosk check-in just for fun, but I don't know that our guests are really telling us it's compelling to keep using that cool stuff just because it's cool. Right. I think the other thing is hotel companies have finally realized that we're not IT people. Some of us are, but we don't have to. We don't have to build it ourselves. There's people that do that for us, and I think
I do that.
they do it. By the way, I wrote down that you're making technology cheaper for us, so we'll renegotiate the opera contract right after this.
Let me get a pen.
Okay.
Another question. So I think Melissa's saying that she would like to see a concept maybe where it is technology free. Do you think that is an opportunity?
I know of an IHG hotel who had a special package that you could buy where when you check in, they take your mobile phone and do not give it back. part of the price.
Data. How are we using data in the hospitality industry? I'm sorry.
But you need to repeat what you just said because it's true. It's true. It's true.
Well, again, if you listen to what guests tell us, they want, especially younger generations of guests, they will say to us, take my data but use it. And use it to show that you recognize me and you value me. So it's not a case of not capturing Amanda's preference for cappuccino because it's intrusive or anything like that. It's a case of asking, making sure that we're able to give service because of the data that we have about guests. Right. Globally, and most of you will be aware of GDPR and all the new, not new, but improving and enhancing, security concerns and new rules that we have to stick by, and that's a huge concern for any organization, but especially a hotel company. Right. I will say that IHG for sure, but most companies will spend almost more money on keeping guest data safe than they will on anything else, because knowing our guests is part of where the trust comes from. If you're an IHG Rewards Club member and we know your preferred bed type and we know all of those things about you, we know the reason you keep coming back is because you trust us, and part of that is being responsible with your information.
Right. And I want to be respectful of the time, but I know we have one more question in the back. I know we have this conversation throughout the industry. Are millennials taking over? Are they really going to run the world, right? And are we going to create hotels specifically for the millennial generation? So what's your take on that? And you can wrap it up also, just the future of hospitality in general.
I really think that we've already seen that beginning to happen, and some of the brands that you see out there are very millennial specific. There's a few that I would never stay at just because they are geared toward that age, that generation. And I think it may stay that way. Will every hotel change? No, it won't, because you're still going to have people's preferences, and you're going to, some hotels will appeal to some, not all.
Right. Yeah. I think it's going to go full circle as well, right? I think every round of generations that come up, there's going to be something new that they need to attend to. Like you've got the post-millennial generation that are more interested in real experiences that are not technology driven, right? The kids that are like 8 or 9 years old today, they're going to be the next gen coming up, and they're the ones that want to have the touch and feel of the experience versus what's on my iPhone. So, I think it's going to go full circle. I think the millennials, I employ millennials, and I see them, like I've got young ones and older ones, right? Because it is a span, and I see them growing out of some of their previous habits and becoming earners. And what do I do with the money that I earn, and where do I want to stay, and do I want to share a bathroom down the hall with somebody? No, I don't. So they're going to go to a more traditional style hotel. So I think it's it's very fluid. I think we've not come across this in all the generations. Like you think back from the baby boomers, the greatest generation, baby boomers, Gen Xers, etc. We've not seen that type of personality yet. So I think a lot has yet to come.
I think that's true, and I know it's probably not the popular opinion, but this is really the first time, at least that I can remember, that we've labelled the next generation and started worrying about them this far in advance, and it's really I'm clearly not a millennial, and I'm glad I'm not, because they've had the worst rap. We hear these things like they're entitled or they're this or that, and I think that's absolute nonsense. Again, and maybe I'm an optimist, but the sense of community that comes with the younger generation, that's something that I think hospitality is going to benefit from. The sense of giving back, and whether it's fundraising or charitable work, saving the planet, all the stuff that we broke, they're fixing. And I would like to treat them coming into the workplace like they're going to make a difference.
Well, I think we are out of time. I really appreciate you ladies for being here tonight. Let's give a round of applause to our phenomenal panelists.
Thank you so much, Amanda, Dee, Pam, Emma. So great job tonight. Thank you so much. So please come back next month for Women in Smart Cities. We'll have the CIO of Atlanta here. We'll have the Smart Cities expert from Georgia Tech here, Mary Peterson, Winter Harbaugh, Laura Wysong. Please register early. This will be a big event for us. And thank you so much for coming out tonight and supporting the Women in Wireless Special Interest Group and the Wireless Technology Forum. So. And we have a slew of events coming up here. So we have August is coming up, September, Women in Big Data. Alicia is running that show. And October, Art and Science of Product Management. Janine will be running that show. And of course, last but not least, predictions for women in the workplace. Neely. All right, so if you have any questions about these events, come see these ladies right here. So please do join the Wireless Technology Forum. Please do come to our general sessions, and please do sponsor. Thank you very much. Good night.